I call to order today's regular agenda meeting, Thursday, November the 5th, 2020. Like to ask everyone to please silence their phones. And if there's anyone downstairs that would like to fill out a blue slip pertaining to anything tonight, please fill it out and someone will direct you to the right area. The invocation, Mr. Joe, would you like to do the pledge?
Sure.
The invocation and pledge?
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, as we gather here this evening, we pause to give you thanks and praise for the many blessings that you have given us. We ask that you give us your guidance this evening as we make decisions. We ask for your blessing upon this country and the leadership, that your Holy Spirit guide our nation's leaders And we ask all of these favors in your Son's name, Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. Amen.
Amen. You all face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Mr. Andrew Blunt.
Welcome.
Madam Secretary, roll call, please.
Yes, sir. Vice President Abshire? Here. Mr. Andrew
Here.
Mr. Barris?
Here.
Mr. Barty?
Here.
Mr. Brain? Here. Mr. Burley?
Here.
Mr. Hayes?
Here.
Mr. Landry? Mr. Lewis?
Here.
Mr. Marcantel?
Here.
Mr. Richard?
Here.
Mr. Smith?
Here.
Mr. Stelly?
Here.
Mr. Tremonti?
Here.
And President Gilreath.
Here.
You do have a quorum.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Item 4, take appropriate action on applications for liquor and beer permits. Mr. Bean.
Thank you, Mr. President. There are 2 new applications for liquor and beer permits and 28 renewal applications for liquor and beer permits. We recommend approval on all 30.
I need a motion.
So moved.
I have a motion by Mr. Barris and a second by Mr. Abshire. Is there any discussion? Any objection? That motion have carried. Item 5, consideration of approving the minutes of the regular meeting of the police jury dated August 20th, 2020. I have a motion by Mr. Barris and a second by Mr. Burley. Is there any questions? Any objection? That motion's carried.
Move on 6.
Item 6, consideration of approving payments of all current invoices. I have a motion by Mr. Anderpont and a second by Mr. Barty. Is there any questions? Any other discussion? That motion carried. Item 7, consideration of adopting an ordinance approving the following rezoning application, 800 block of Manchester Road in Ward 8, rezoned from single-family residential to mixed residential to allow residential development of lots 1 through 12 of Oak Run subdivision. I have a motion to deny rezoning by Mr. Smith, and I have a second by Mr. Lewis. Is the applicant here or anyone representing the applicant here at this time?
Mr. President.
Yes, there's someone coming.
Okay.
Mr. President.
I need to recuse myself from the vote.
Okay, Madam Secretary, Mr. Tremonti.
Yes.
Yes, state your name and address for the record, please.
Sorry. Robin Bissoni, 1010 Lakeland Drive, Lake Charles.
Okay.
As always, we appreciate your service to our parish, especially during these trying times. I was here just a few short weeks ago. There was quite a bit of opposition to our project. The owners of the development met with some attorneys representing some of the residents of the neighborhood that was opposed to the change of zoning for the 12 lots. They were unable to iron out all of the details, and there were other residents not associated with those representatives that are still opposed to our project. So we know that we have the opposition. At this time, my clients would like me to request that the jury consider, instead of 12 lots, the rezoning of lots 1 through 7. Those lots are not directly across from the subdivision that opposes our change. They are across from vacant property. And we would also like to explain that the type of development that we are proposing after the change is manufactured homes that would have to meet certain standards to be placed there, skirting, proper landscaping. These would be very nice. We would like the jury to consider the urgent and critical need for housing in our area at this time. Being able to change these 7 lots to R2 would mean some folks being able to come back to a home in Calcasieu Parish by Christmas time. And that's the items that we would like you to consider. So the change from the 12 lots to the 7 lots, we hope would be more palatable to the neighbors.
I have some questions. Mr. Brain.
Thank you, Mr. President. Robin, so at the beginning of what your presentation, you said something about that y'all did meet with the other, the opposition as well?
Yes, sir.
And how did that go? So y'all had some communication then?
They absolutely did. And they were in agreement. But they were going to work out putting some things actually on paper and ironing out those details. And that could not be done by today. And so just within the last few days, we had actually communicated with the parish zoning office and requested for another extension of time.
Okay, is that what y'all would like, another extension, or do you would, I mean, I don't know. To me, since y'all, at the last meeting, I think Mr. Landry said that he would like to defer it, and I agreed with him on that, mainly so y'all could get together and talk and try to work out some details. It seems like that y'all have done that, at least tried to work out some details, and I think that's a good communication, as long as, you know, that y'all are communicating back and forth. May not agree on everything, but at least y'all are working together. And for that, you know, I would probably, you know, if you'd want to defer to continue communicating with them and try to resolve it, or whatever y'all would like to do. That was my main question, was have y'all been communicating with one another?
We have been, and we would definitely be open to continuing that, but we were not able to get tonight's deferral.
Okay.
We were not able to get that.
Right, okay, so, and also, I understand that today's world, and since we've been through two major hurricanes, that, you know, the need is out there, you know, and also, I think I've spoken with Wes about the mobile home parks that are in the area, or mobile homes that are in the area, and, you know, it seems to be a pretty good fit from where it is. I don't know really what the reason for the opposition is, but I don't live out there, and I'm not familiar with the area, but I guess for me, it's just the communication is been open, and that's what we requested. And I'll just yield back, Mr. President, and let some more discussion
Thank you,
take
Mr.
place.
President.
Thank you.
Mr. Beers.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. President. What is that land directly across from your development? That big dirt area, what is that? Okay, so where the road is to the right of that yellow box?
The long slender yellow box down the center of the drawing
Correct.
is the Roke Run development.
Okay, so where's the road that it fronts up to? Is it on the right?
To the right of that.
Okay, so
yes,
all that kind of,
is
the wooded area there, what is that zone right now? Do you know?
Wes might be able to help us with that.
Okay, what road is that? Is that McGowan? Manchester.
Manchester.
Yes, Mr. President, Wes Crane, Director of Planning and Development. That property that is wooded right there is zoned RM, which is multifamily. So it would allow many different types of housing units.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
That's all. I just want to make sure that we weren't putting something that was zoned totally opposite of what we're asking for.
Thanks, Mr. Beers. Mr. Andrew.
Is there anyone here tonight opposing?
Yes.
Okay. And just one other question. I know it was deferred from the last meeting to tonight. How many times has this appeared on the agenda before the last meeting and tonight's meeting? Has this been going on before?
It's been deferred about 4 times.
It's been deferred 4 times
Yeah.
to this point?
Well,
No, sir. No, sir.
yeah.
Just, yeah.
Okay, I just thought since they first applied for it, and we went through the storm and everything,
Why
that
don't we let Mr. Crane?
So it's only been deferred once or 4?
Mr. Crane, once.
One time? Okay. Which was the last meeting? Okay, thanks.
Thank you,
Mr.
Mr.
President, I'm looking at 123 signatures here. I got numerous texts, numerous phone calls on this issue from the residents of Manchester. None of them have called me back to change their opinion on it. And these signatures are still here, so I'm assuming they're still legitimate. And so that's my only thing is that, I know, ma'am, you said that you've worked out a lot of things, but, I mean, I don't see anything on it, and nobody's contacted me from that area. I'm not saying you haven't, but I'm just saying that, they haven't contacted me since the original problem. That's all I have.
Okay, Mr. Markeytel. Mr. Smith.
Okay, I was just wondering, since y'all are going down from 12 to 7, would it have to go back in front of the Planning and Zoning Board for the actual approval or determination? Since we're changing the actual, changing it?
West, if I'm right, no, that would be just up to tonight to us.
It may be a legal question, but I don't think so. I think you can amend the application as you wish. It's normally not desirable to amend something like that, but you certainly can.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Mr. Landry.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yeah, don't go nowhere, hold on. Mr. Crane, yeah, hold on. Okay, now what I'm looking at is color-coded. I'm on the color-coded map.
Excuse me, let me get my.
Okay. There we go.
Okay.
So and I guess that would be in the easterly direction. They showed it what appeared to be a lot of mobile homes. Is that a mobile home park that was there in that blue area?
Yes, sir, the bluish color, that is
Which is
zone,
to the right or to the east?
yeah, to the east and to the right. It is zone mobile home park.
And there's one there.
Oh, yes, sir.
I mean, I saw a picture of it.
Yes, sir.
Now, the tan color above the red is, well, that says it's is that C3?
C3,
So what can we build in C3?
shopping center.
What else? That's the
Any-
worst thing? I'm just thinking of the worst
Anything
thing.
commercial, yeah.
Okay.
Convenience
And then
stores, anything
the
commercial.
kind of reddish or brownish
The
red,
brown color, yeah. That's RM, that's
that's
multifamily.
multifamily, so we could build an apartment complex.
You certainly could.
Anything like that would go there.
Any
Duplexes,
duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes, apartment complex.
that's a big piece of land. They could probably get hundreds of them in there
Possibly.
without coming here. That would be by right, wouldn't it?
Yes, so they would have to apply for a permit, but yes, the use would be permissible
There
as of
wouldn't be
right.
any public hearing
No, sir.
for either one. So now to the west of the strip that they own, I mean, on mine, it looks blue. I guess it's a different blue. What is that zone?
To the west of there, that's the light gray.
It looks blue on mine, but go ahead.
The light gray that's just to the west of their strip, that's light industrial.
And they could build what there without a hearing? That's the problem here.
Industrial type, light industrial
Yeah,
type uses.
like some type of plant, industrial use.
Well, not
necessarily.
not a gas plant, but warehousing,
Big welding operation or something like
possibly,
that.
yes, yeah.
So when you say that you're wanting to amend, I mean, this is a very long piece of property. So where, if you were granted that, Ms. Pisoni, where on this piece of property would those go? Would it go across from,
Right across from the brown.
across from the what?
Right across from the multifamily.
The brown.
The
The
brown.
red. So you wouldn't you would leave alone what's across from the neighborhood. Hey, look, and I understand those folks, because you gotta fight for everything. I mean, or otherwise you just, They're gonna put whatever there. And I don't blame them for being here, and I don't blame them for the phone calls or emails or anything else. I do the same thing, but they gotta realize what's all around them. And all of that's gonna happen without a hearing, because that's just the way that it's zoned, unless the person wants to come back and rezone it to something worse or something better. So you would just be from that bottom of that reddish brown color to the north,
Yes, sir.
which would kind of from an easterly and east-west position would line up with the mobile homes that are already there.
There's the wooded area between the
between,
two.
right,
But yes,
which
we
is
would
the
be
two-
on the same lateral, yes, sir.
And of course, you know, I don't even remember where this thing started, and I think that may be some of Mr. Andrew Pont's question. This goes back some time, I guess it was A1 originally, or whatever it was, and the man that bought the property, y'all came up here and y'all wanted to do, I don't remember what it was. Was it R1 at First West, or was it something else?
It was R1.
And I know they didn't, at best I remember, there was opposition to the R1. I think
Yes.
there was, which is that's a hard thing to go against. I mean, that's just single-family homes. Everybody got to have a place to live, but, you know, I guess some of these houses right now, they're kind of out in the country, and there's not a whole lot around them. But I don't know that they realize what that property's on right there and what's going to happen over time, regardless of the outcome of what happens here tonight. I mean, there's going to be apartment complexes, duplex, whatever is going to go there. And then, or that mobile home area is going to expand. It's just, it's hard to tell somebody no when it's all around there. Now, Mr. Crane, I'm sure y'all have some recommendation. Did this pass the zoning board?
Yes.
It did pass there?
No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm
So
sorry. It did not.
if the zoning board turned it down, but I think y'all's recommendation was to approve.
Was to approve it, yes. I felt like it was a consistent land use pattern, simply because you do have the manufactured home park right there. And you do have a little bit of the R2 mixed residential just to the north and east of that tract. You'll see the green, the light green.
Yeah.
And then the sort of the darker green, which is A1 agricultural. You could do a subdivision, a mobile home subdivision there, not a mobile home park, but a subdivision. He could subdivide the property and do a mobile home subdivision.
And what they're asking for, are these mobile homes going to be on lots, and those lots are going to be sold?
That's my understanding, yes, sir.
So this isn't some type of rental deal or anything
It's not a mobile
like
home
that?
park, no.
And these lots are going to be what size? Do you know, or Ms. Basoni know?
Yeah, they're 200 plus, they're an acre.
So
yeah.
about an acre, it's going to be, so you'll have a mobile home that somebody, I mean, it's going to be a home place.
Yes,
That they're going to have a mobile home and an acre of land.
that's correct.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's all I have.
Thanks, Mr. Landry. Mr. Hayes.
Mr. Craig, let me ask you to kind of re-explain.
Turn this
the-
up.
Can you turn your mic on, please?
Hello. Could you explain to me again, you said that the zoning board recommended the refusal. They didn't endorse it, but that you did?
I recommended in favor of it, but the board, they denied it.
And what was their reasoning, do you remember?
That, there were several reasons. I don't know all the reasons that they had. I mean, there was opposition because of the mobile homes and a lot of, there was indication from the neighbors that it was not consistent with what they had constructed out there. So, I don't poll them to see what the reasons are.
Was flooding mentioned at all?
I'm sorry?
Was flooding mentioned at all?
There was some concern about drainage. They do have, in another phase on the property that they own, where the agricultural property is, they do have proposed a detention pond. And so there was indication that there was some concern about how that was going to drain in that general area right there. But that all, again, that all has to be engineered.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. President,
Thank you, Mr. Hayes. Yes,
can
Mr.
I-
Bean.
maybe it'd help, just a suggestion, Wes, for the jurors. Explain on the drainage question, that's important, because even if it's rezoned, if y'all vote to rezone, it's got to pass the appropriate drainage requirements you have, which if it doesn't go any further. So I don't know if you knew that. So there's still an opportunity. They would have to address the drainage issues, and they know that, but so it's not before zoning. I just wanted to make sure you knew.
Wait a minute, now what was that you were just saying?
Well, let me let Wes explain.
So, right, basically in your ordinance, we already have in the ordinance regulations about drainage, and if somebody develops a property, especially a subdivision, that has to go through an engineering review process through our engineering department. And so they're going to review the impact of, any kind of stormwater issue or anything going into the roadside ditches and how it affects the other properties, the surrounding properties. So that all has to be engineered. If they can't get that right, if there's impact on any of those properties, then
But that,
they can't get through it.
but does that come back to us?
No.
Thank you, Mr. Barty. Is there any other questions for the applicant? I'm sorry, Mr. Barris.
Thank you, sir. I know you said something about, I'm sorry, Ms. Robin, they're going to be nice trailers, and they're going to have to do this, and they're going to have to do that. But these are going to be private lots, so they will be basically, that'll go down to like the deed restrictions.
Yes, sir.
And then, so whereas they will have to kind of police themselves.
Yes, sir.
Which happens how much in mobile home communities? That's the thing. I don't know, it's not like the big planned ones where, you have to play by the park's rules or you're
Correct.
gone. These are private lots. So they could start, everybody, nice skirting and landscaping, but as time passes, what will this materialize,
I concur. It's definitely an individual sold lot.
Okay. Yeah. And I'm total agreement with Mr. Landry. You look all around, there's one of everything around there, so, and you know that. So, that's it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Barris. Is there any other questions for the applicant? Thank you, Ms. Pisoni. I have Mr. Rob McCorkindale.
And Mr. President,
I'm sorry,
as
hold
Mr.
on.
Cordell comes up, how many persons do we have in opposition? Would we
Four
say,
with this one.
would we say 3 minutes each then?
Okay. Mr. McCorkindale, yes, you have 3 minutes, Mr. McCorkindale. Mr. Carson, state your name and business for the business address for the record.
Rob McCorkadale. I'm of counsel of the law firm of Stutz and Laverne on 600 Broad Street in Lake Charles, and we represent the neighborhood that's in yellow up there. I only have 3 minutes, so I'm going to talk a little fast, and I apologize for that. First of all, there is no agreement between the parties. We did have a meeting, but we were unable to reach consensus. So what you have before you right now is property currently zoned residential 1 that the developer wants to downgrade to residential 2. If you look at what we have now, it's residential 1, but it's never had an opportunity to sell because it's zoned, the plan that was approved was such that the developer had to build alleys and driveways, and that infrastructure was never put in place. So these lots have never realistically had an opportunity to sell as residential 1. Now, under this proposal, by making them acre lots, they have a much better chance of selling as a residential 1, but we're never going to get the opportunity to find out because he wants to downgrade the first half to residential 2. And I think that's what the neighborhood is upset about. The lots in that neighborhood are all about an acre lot. And these are nice homes. And gentlemen and ladies, hope you don't mind me saying this, but I've only got 3 minutes. These people's houses are about to get totally renovated because of this storm. They're getting ready to reinvest in their property thousands and some of them tens and twenties of thousands of dollars in their house. And while they're doing that, a developer wants to come in and take property that's currently zoned residential 1 and downgrade it to residential 2 without ever realistically giving it an opportunity to sell at residential 1. We think the 1 acre lots is a great idea. We think that solves the problem. And if you want to approve this today as all of those 18 lots, 1 acre, residential 1, we don't have any objection. But there's no way to know if those lots will sell as residential 1 until you give them a chance, and they haven't had a chance. The current zonings are 64 lots, and the developer has to build a drive, has to build an alleyway, has to have 3 driveway cutouts. There's all kind of infrastructure that never got built. Right now, and I know there are other trailers in the area, but right now you can't get to a trailer or trailer park on Manchester Road.
1 minute.
Thank you. These people are concerned that right now their property is an island in the parish, and they have taken good care of their property. It's a community, they care about it, and they want to see their property values hold, and they think they're entitled to keep zoning at residential 1. There's no reason to downgrade it, other than if they want to. And you heard the story or the suggestion that people need these lots, and people can come back home sooner. They already own most of that Greek stuff that they can put a subdivision right now without any zoning change. Why do we need to change the ones on the north end of Manchester Road? I'm out of time.
20 seconds.
There will be no restrictions on the current plan. Wes can correct me if I'm wrong. The subdivision restrictions where they have to have nice skirting and all that, I don't think that's part of this proposal. That was part of the compromise we talked about, but I don't think it's actually written in the proposal. So right now, I believe it's a 1 acre lot. They put a trailer on it, and that's pretty much all the
Thank you,
restrictions.
Mr. McCarkendale. Thank you. I'm sorry. I have a question, Mr. Barris.
Wes, Mr. Crane, can we retain the R1 designation and then do maybe like a variance or an exception to allow mobile homes? I mean, is it, that way you could stipulate it to where should the property change hands, it reverts back to the R1.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm just trying to think of a different way to where it gives like a safety net.
Under the ordinance, under R1 residential, a person could make application for a zoning exception in order to put a manufactured home in R1.
Okay.
That's currently under the ordinance.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Barris. Mr. Landry.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Crane, hang on.
Yes, sir.
Some more things just came back to me about this. This used to be a rice canal. Wasn't there a rice canal in there? I thought so. Okay. And I think the first shot was there was going to be like 30 driveways on that road. It all comes back. Yeah, and that was just like.
Actually, the property was unzoned at one time because it was a rice canal.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all coming back. That driveway thing, that was just not a good deal. So that's where we came up with the compromise. They were going to have shared driveways and all that type of deal.
Right. There were actually limited numbers of driveways. And that's why the alley was required. So they could access the homes back behind the homes through the alley.
So the plan on file, obviously, is what we just spoke of. And if to change the plan on file.
That's what they're doing.
Well, I understand. But let's just say he wanted to do the acre lot deal and sell acre lots, just regular. Does he still have to come back and change the plan on file to do that? It would just be an R1, 1 acre lot.
Well, he actually got a subdivision. The subdivision plat was approved, so he would have to amend the subdivision plat.
Which would be he has to do that through a hearing, or can you do that?
No, he'd have to.
Had to start all over again.
Yeah,
it wouldn't change the zoning. It would just change the plan on file.
That's correct. Right.
Okay. And how many 1 acre lots can he get there, I wonder?
I don't know. I haven't figured that out. 18. They figured it out. 18. Ms. Bissoni said the subdivision has been proposed for 18 lots. I'll let her.
Ms. Bissoni.
The original development was 64 lots with the alleys and.
Oh, right. Yeah, well, I remember, yeah.
So that has been changed to 18 1 acre lots.
With R1?
R1.
So that's what it is right now.
That's what it is right now, 18 acre lots.
Now we're trying to go to R2
R2
and
for
stick with an
the
acre.
first 12, and now we're open to compromise for it to be the 7,
Okay,
the northern 7.
all right, thank you. Now, if Mr. McCorkadale could come back. I
Mr.
got a question for
McCorkadale.
him.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Give me some kind of encouragement on maybe what y'all did agree upon, because I know y'all had a meeting. I don't need to know all the details, but did y'all to come to any kind of agreement in this last week or
Well,
two?
the problem we have is that we're not dealing with one person on one side and one person on the other. We're dealing with 23, 45 subdivision people. There just seems to, we were unable to reach a consensus today, or I'm
Right,
sorry, at the
so
time.
a lot of them kind of have their own ideal of what should happen there.
Everybody has their own opinion, understandably, and I think the concern is that they feel like, you know, they invest a lot in their houses, and right now on Manchester Road, there is no trailers.
Right.
Trailer or trailer parks. And there are other places, if you want to put a trailer in that area, if you want to put one, but that their property is an island of nicer homes that are getting ready to become even nicer, because they're all getting ready to reinvest because of the hurricane damage. You know, they're all like everybody else. And I think that's the biggest concern.
And, you know, and look, hey, I understand. I live in town. I got a trailer park that's been grandfathered in, been by my house for years. I put up a big fence. I don't really see it, but it's right there, right in my backyard. And it's rental trailers, and it doesn't get any worse than that, I can promise you.
Yes, sir.
But I mean, do they realize what's around them? I mean, do they realize what can happen and be built there without a hearing? There's not going to be a hearing because it's already zoned that way.
You're talking about the other property on that road?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. I mean, I have a copy of that map, and it's been, yeah, they know.
Yeah,
I mean,
you know,
discussed that with them.
that's the only thing.
It's one of those things where, you know, in a perfect world where we had more time, we got everybody in the room together sooner, but, you know, there's time constraints, and we just couldn't commit to an agreement, and it took an agreement to get a deferral, so, you know, we kind of got here. I mean, so my marching orders are, at this point, we oppose it the way it is.
Yeah, you're not really interested in trying to work this out. You
Well, I
don't
wouldn't say
really-
that. I think everybody would rather have a compromise that they all could agree with and live with. We just haven't been able to get there in the time that was available to us. I don't know that we can get there either. I don't want to
Right.
mislead you. But, you know, it's a very personal issue, especially in these tough times after the storm,
Yeah.
where you're reinvesting in your property and you're saying, you know, I'm committed to Calcasieu Parish. I've lived here for 30 years. I'm getting ready to reinvest. Why are we going to downgrade zoning next to my house when I'm getting ready to invest all this money in it? And yes, there may be a need for a trailer subdivision, but there's land available this developer has, and he can do a trailer subdivision. Why do we have to make those, why downgrade that zoning now is the question. I mean, there are issues with flooding, it is a rice canal, but, you know, what I explained to them is that if the lots are flood really bad, then they might not be able to sell them no matter what they do with them. But that's not our issue, but flooding is a legitimate issue. Manchester's a narrow road, and there is an old rice canal. They sent me a lot of pictures of water on the ground next to the road, so.
Well, but I'll tell you, with our drainage ordinance, that I don't even consider drainage whenever I'm making a zoning decision,
Yes.
because either they're going to meet the ordinance and they're going to have a zero effect on the runoff and of how they affect the neighborhood, or they're never going to get the permits to develop it. It's going to be one or the other.
No, I agree.
And I know every time somebody comes here and have drainage concerns, it still comes up. They're still going to talk about it. I don't know that they understand the way the ordinance is written. There's been more than one thing that we've approved here, and then it's never been built.
Yeah.
Because what they thought they were going to be able to do, they find out they can't do it. Or they can't do it in such a way to where they're still going to make money off of it, and then nothing gets developed, but it protects the neighborhood.
I just mentioned it because you were refreshing your memory. This is one with the rice canal and the flooding issue. I'm just kind of affirming, yes, that was one of the issues.
I
That was
wouldn't
the
have
deal.
filled the rice canal in. I don't know how all of that came about, but it did. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Landry. Mr. Barris.
Real quick, this is kind of an unheard of thing, that a developer is willing to sit down and hold things up and even sit down. Sometimes it's just they're going after their application, and so, you know, it's a good thing that you guys are wanting to sit down with these residents. I want to make sure that everybody involved understands how big that is. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Barris. Mr. Andrew.
Yes, I would just like to hear from the other opponents, if they're residents or whatnot. And
Yes,
let's get
yes,
through with
yes.
those, and then we can discuss further. Thank you.
Yes, sir, Mr. Andrew. I have Mr. Carl Duhon. Mr. Duhon, state your name and address for the record, please.
Mr. Carl Duhon, 1100 East Town Drive. I was coming in, I'm totally against this project. One of the reasons are, I have no problem with progress. Look, we've been back and forth with Oak Run with this project, and the houses they presented to us was great, but it's been changed over and over for 3 to 4 years now. Now they're back again with manufactured homes, sophisticated name for trailer houses. My thing, I'm like the man was just saying, I have a $300,000 home that got damaged in this hurricane, and now I'm finna put another $100,000. I don't want my value of my house depreciated. I speak for not just myself, but my neighborhood, because we have nice homes. You put manufactured homes and you kill your property value. That's just automatic. Now, I can't do nothing about the trailers that's already been there. They, like they said, grandfathered in, nothing we could do about it. But to bring the new development they talking about doing, no, I'm totally against that. That's all I wanted to say.
Is there any questions for Mr. Duhon? Thank you, Mr. Duhon. Next is Ms. Tara Rito. Ms. Rito, state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Tara Rito. My address is 1263 East Town Drive. And I am another person that is opposed to this. I'm not opposed to progress. My husband and I rehab. We have apartment complexes in the city. I have rental properties. I'm very aware that people need places to stay. I'm just opposed to the zoning change. That's my opposition. I'm not opposed if they want to do acre lots, residential, that's what it is. I'm very okay with that. But I am opposed to changing the zone. If it's already light manufacturing, that's fine. If they want to put an apartment complex in the lot that's commercial, I'm fine with that. But to change 8 lots from mobile homes that have to police themselves, I don't want to live in a society that's not policed. It's very hard for people to follow the honor system. And trailers look great when you first get them, but pass by a trailer that's 15 years old. Matter of fact, if you're riding past by the trailer park on 397 and McGowan, which was a very nice park that has been demolished by the hurricanes. If we put that there, next year a hurricane come, well, now you're rolling down Manchester in more demolished areas. I just oppose the zone change. If they want to put residential houses, I'm not opposed to that. We have about 30 people downstairs. A lot of people chose not to talk. And I think most of them is in agreement.
1 minute.
For residential.
Ms. Tara, hold on. Any questions for Ms. Tara? Okay, thank you, Ms. Tara.
Okay.
Next is Mr. Devin Rito. Mr. Rito, state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Delvin Rito. I live at 1263 East Town Drive, Iowa, Louisiana. The biggest thing that I want to say is I, too, am opposed to this. And like my wife said, not because I oppose progress or I have anything against manufactured homes or anything. My problem is it's the only street where you can access this neighborhood where you don't have these homes. And regardless to what anybody say about how nice they are or how nice the neighborhood is they're going to be, they're going to devalue the homes that are there now. They're going to simply devalue the homes by someone not wanting to have to pass by them or wanting to live in a neighborhood because it's surrounded by mobile homes, totally surrounded. Now, they spoke about other properties all around this area where we can help the people that need housing that have been affected by the hurricane to get back. You know, develop that. But to change what's R1, to lessen that, it would be wrong, not only to the neighborhood, but to the developer, other lots that are already there where people are planning on building homes there. And I don't want to get up here and repeat the same things that they said, but basically, no one downstairs is opposed to acre lots where a home is built, something that actually grows in value, not devalues as time erodes it. And I think that is what's important, and that's why we're here today, to make sure, or to say that we oppose the changing of that.
Any questions for Mr. Devin? Mr. Devin, you said there's about 30 people downstairs, all against it, all against it?
At least.
Okay, thank you. Well, I'm sorry, Mr. Smith.
Okay, Mr. Rito, I want to ask you a question. How much do you think the average home cost value is in Manchester right now?
Well, I'll just give you an example of my situation there. When I first bought there, I bought 2 lots for around, about $10,000 a lot. And some of them were less than that at the time, but this was a very undeveloped neighborhood. So by the time I sold mine, it was a couple years later, and I think the last lot that was bought in that neighborhood is somewhere around $40,000 to $45,000 a lot. And now the demand is such that you can't find an acre lot that close to Lake Charles for that amount of money. They're even more than that now. So I would say the average cost of a home in that area is $350,000 easy.
Okay, so I mean, I guess the average cost of a lot would be somewhere around 45 to 50 right now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Any other questions for Mr. Barty?
Mr. Rito, how long have you been living there?
I've been there since 2001. I actually purchased a property probably 3 years before that. So my home was built I moved in 2001. I started in the year 2000.
And roughly, most of the residents out there, how long you think they've been there? There were a lot of people out there prior to you?
There were several people out there prior to me, but I've seen several homes built around that same time. There was a lot of development that went on around the year 2000. In between 2000 and 2004, the neighborhood really just grew. And now there's a desire for the land, but nobody wants to sell it. But I can tell you this, if things or the neighborhood erodes, then that desire won't be there anymore. And that's why we all say that our property values will go down. When there's not a desire for it, it's not worth whatever the market says it is.
You finished, Mr. Barty?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm sorry. Any other questions for Mr. Devin? Thank you, Mr. Rito. Thank you, Mr. Rito.
Thank you.
Do we just call for?
Recall the applicant. Recall the applicant.
Okay. Will the applicant please come back up? Ms. Bassoni, is there anything else you want to add or anything?
I know it's been mentioned several times about the previous development, and the change to this was definitely for the better to the acre lots. And then it was also mentioned that the A1, which the developer owns, so the green patch to the south end of our development, would allow for mobile homes as of right now, except that a subdivision would have to go through the engineering and the approval, et cetera, et cetera. So changing, that was mentioned as, if you want to help people come back to Lake Charles, you could put mobile homes on that A1. That would take a very long time. That doesn't address the immediate critical need for people that would like to put a mobile home there to come back to Calcasieu Parish. If it, we just ask you to consider as a land use question. We don't think we're in accordance with the Planning and Zoning Office. We think that it's an appropriate use for those 7 lots. We do understand the opposition, but as a land use question, is those 7. Thank you for your consideration.
Question.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, okay, Mr. Barchi.
So you're saying that the green box there is is owned by the same?
Correct.
Okay.
The light green box that's long and skinny is Oak Run LLC. The member of that Oak Run LLC individually owns the darker green box
Right.
as well. That is
the
correct.
large rectangular box.
That is correct. And I want you to know he is present. If you would prefer to ask questions to him directly, he is available.
Well, it just sort of looks like approving this boxes these people in with mobile homes, or the possibility of mobile homes.
The possibility of mobile homes is there.
You're right, but I'm just saying.
In the dark green.
Right, okay.
Any other questions for Ms. Bassoni? Thank you, Ms. Bassoni.
Call the question.
Roll call vote.
This will be a reverse roll call vote, and Mr. Tremonti has indicated that he is recusing himself.
I'm sorry, before we start.
Repeat the motion on the floor.
The motion on,
Is to deny.
Motion is to deny.
So a vote of yes would be to deny. Correct.
Yes, sir. Mr. Stelling,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Hold on, I'm gonna get this straight, hold on. I just got a question. So I know she came up and asked about going down to 7 from 12. So if it is approved, are we approving the 12 or
That's not the
7?
discussion.
I was gonna say, yeah, right now, we're on roll call vote.
Okay.
Discussion is over.
Okay.
But right now, it's just
Clarify
on
the
roll call
motion.
vote.
So
I'm sorry, Mr. Landry.
it's a motion to deny rezoning on the floor right now, and that's being voted on right now. So your motion was to deny rezoning, so if you do still wish to deny rezoning, it would be a yes vote.
Okay, all right. Yes.
I'm sorry. Hold on, right, Mr. Landry.
I was just going to further explain to, but if his motion fails, then a motion could be made to accept the compromise plan of being lesser, but yeah.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman, we're in the process of voting. If we can continue, please.
Well,
Yes.
Mr. President, whenever we vote, everybody up here needs to know what they're voting on and feel comfortable about it.
I'm
And if
prepared
that
to vote.
takes 5 more minutes, then so be it.
Yeah, because we have a lot of new jurors. Okay, right now, we're on roll call vote. Mr. Smith?
Okay, yes.
Okay.
Mr. Richard,
Yes.
Mr. Markentile,
Yes.
Mr. Lewis,
Yes.
Mr. Landry,
Yes.
Mr. Hayes,
Yes.
Mr. Burley,
Yes.
Mr. Brain,
Yes.
Mr. Barty,
Yes.
Mr. Barris,
No.
Mr. Angelon,
Yes.
and Vice President Abshar.
Yes.
The motion to deny carried 13 to 1.
We're gonna give it 2-3 minutes for everyone to clear up. Give it a couple of minutes for everyone to clear up right now. Come up here. Come up here. Okay.
The call is no longer there?
Item 8, consideration of adopting a resolution approving a corporate endeavor agreement for the annual smoke and barrel celebration for the fine bourbon, barbecue, and whiskey event. I have a motion by Mr. Abshar and a second by Mr. Chamati. Any discussion? Any objection? That motion will carry. Item 9, consideration of adopting a resolution approving an amendment to the professional services contract for the Dean Drive Bridge Replacement Project in Ward 4. I have a motion by Mr. Stelly and a second by Mr. Barris. Is there any discussion? Any objection? That motion carried.
Move on
Item
10. Move on 10, all bullets.
We can take all bullets. Item 10.
Second.
Consideration of adopting a resolution of approving the 2021 Road and Drainage Trust Fund grants as follows. 10A, Town of Iowa, $109,000 North Storer Avenue Drainage Improvement. Item B, City of Lake Charles, $386,000 Kirkman Street Bridge Replacement. Item C, City of Sulphur, $171,000 Mimosa Heights Streets Improvement, Phase 2. And D, City of Westlake, $116,000 Lee Street Improvements, Phase 2. I have a motion by Mr. Anderpont and a second by Mr. Barris.
No. I'm not on that.
That wasn't you?
Somebody else?
Okay, Mr. Hayes. I have a second by Mr. Hayes.
I won't talk.
Okay, discussion, Mr. Barris.
Thank you. Here we are again, giving out checks for drainage improvements. We've been working on this for 3 or 4 years. I mean, can I get a report on what these entities, what progress these entities are making with their drainage ordinances? Can anybody give me something that makes me feel good about this?
Mr. President, I can try to answer. I think if there may be more detail that on these awards, you may not be asking that, Mr. Barris. Tim could do that. If you need more detail, maybe Alan can provide it on the ordinances. But just a quick reminder, this structure of the Road and Drainage Trust Fund, this is the first time it's like this. And what I mean is, it feels like 2 years ago, but not too long prior to Hurricane Laura, we had juror group meetings to recommend, and y'all supported it in discussions. This would be kind of a pilot year to have an improved method that's a lot simpler but still very effective, to where the 6 cities in the parish would get an allocation of the trust fund instead of competitive bidding.
Totally get that.
I know I'm trying to get to your question. A lot of good questions at that time from jurors about how do we incentivize better ordinances for drainage from cities. And we just simply asked that we totally agree, but in this first year, we want to just try this out as is. And then in the follow-up year, assuming this goes well, we would add probably more funds for consideration above the million a year, but contingent upon some incentive-based ordinances. So it's really timing, Judd. Now to answer your question, I believe Lake Charles actually, after a long time, finally did pass a revised set of drainage ordinances not too long ago. There are improvements. It's a judgment call, I think, depending on how much, but it's better. Sulphur, we're hopeful is soon, because they tracked a lot of the same period with Lake Charles, but to be honest, we need to get with Mayor Danahay and see where they are on that, and Stacy Dowden, their Public Works Director. The smaller cities, unless Alan has an update, I'm not aware of improvements in their ordinances, but it doesn't mean they're not willing to. I think they would look for more of a template from Sulphur or Lake Charles, and we haven't pushed them as hard, so I want to be a little easier on them. But that would be the hope, is that Sulphur could come soon, and then hopefully the smaller cities after that.
This is the second round of checks we've handed out since we asked for that to start happening.
Yeah, you mean, yes, back when we did the police jury did approval of the funding to help these cities with building better ordinances, that would be correct. But this is the first,
No, this is the
I know
second
you
time
know that.
we've handed out road and drainage trust fund checks since we overhauled the ordinances and then asked for some progress and some improvements. And I just want to make
correct,
sure,
sir,
I just want to
yes.
make sure that, and I want to go on record, I'm not, we can't just keep handing out free money when, they're not really fixing the big stuff, the big issue, big picture type stuff.
I
So,
understand, you are correct.
thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Barris. Mr. Landry?
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Barris, I agree with you, but one thing that I just learned, or not very long ago, was that it was actually the item that was originally put on the ballot in whatever year it was, talks about the Road and Drainage Trust Fund, does it not? Isn't that what you told me here just 2 or 3 months ago?
Yes, that's actually part of the ballot.
So we're bound, we have to give the money away regardless of whether they do it or not. And so I think
Give it to them
that's
for road
where-
improvements.
Sir?
Give it to them for road improvements.
Well, I guess you possibly could do that. You
mean-
could steer it towards that.
Yeah.
But I think, Brian's ideal is let's give them some incentive, and hopefully they're already moving that way. I don't know what the final ordinance looked like that Lake Charles passed or not. Hopefully it's good. But I don't think legally we can stop doing it. And they may not have a road project. But I'm with you. I mean, this has been
I'm
going
not
on for a
saying
while.
stop, but, if you're not making any progress with your drainage ordinances, then you need to make application for road infrastructure or
But we'll have
something.
to talk to Mr.
Yeah.
Gab, because I don't know if we
Well,
can legally do that.
Mr. President.
Yeah, Mr. Bean.
What Mr. Landry's referring to is, it is kind of baked into the tax call. So any future monies that y'all would approve to go to cities or drainage districts, the 2 districts, for those would not be road and drainage trust fund monies, because that wouldn't be in line with the ordinance. It doesn't matter. You don't have to call it that. You can say it's from the same tax. I guess what I would say, Mr. Barris, we totally agree with what your goal is. What we felt would be a stronger, let's call it a carrot, is the old put your money where your mouth is. We think it would be hard for especially the smaller cities to look away from, if you do some better ordinances, you get this money, versus the stick approach. I would just ask, maybe when we at the point where we're ready to throw that out, see if that works. But you're right, that we would have preferred by now that had happened. Again, Lake Charles has done it. I think Sulphur, frankly, is close. Anything before August 27th feels like we got to catch up, and I'll be happy, and we will. We'll follow up and we have pushed them. I don't want you to think we haven't tried. And so maybe some meetings with some jurors for those areas with those respective mayors and councils would not be inappropriate to state how serious y'all are about that.
Thank you, Mr. Bean. Mr. Barris?
Number 8, no, number 9.
Thank you, and I appreciate that.
Okay, all right. Mr. Andrew.
Yeah, first of all, I think this is a good program. And if you look into this, some of these municipalities are using it for streets, so.
That's it. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Andrew. Mr. Hayes?
Mr. Beamer, are we within our responsibility to ask them to send a representative to our meetings to report on what they're doing with this money?
Sure. I think if we gave them a little notice to, get their responses in order, sure. This is where I might ask Alan to speak. We've been a little easier on the smaller cities because, well, a couple of reasons. The impacts, don't get me wrong, they're important. And we do think they all should have better ordinances. But the practical effect is that the lack of them in those, when I'm counting small cities, I mean everything but Sulphur and Lake Charles, it's less. And so we have given them a lot of time, and hopefully they would see what you're doing as the parish, now the city of Lake Charles, even the consolidation and that. Everything's going to say, look, flooding is bad and you need more than this if you build a new subdivision. And all you got to do is look at what flooded in Hurricane Delta, and it's the usual suspects. And what I mean is, whether it's Moss Bluff, East Lake Charles, it's because most of the time, it was because they were built at a time where this wasn't in place, and they're in bowls or it's low-lying, and that's why you do it. So you can't get that back, and decades later, you're still paying for that. Could that happen into Quincy or Westlake? Absolutely. So we're all for it. I guess we've been a little easier on the fact that they're smaller and all, but we paid an engineering firm to literally help all the cities on how to develop ordinances. So it's all there, and we'll keep helping them. I didn't mean to go so long to answer your question. I would just say we need to prepare them for your, what are you doing about it, and make sure that their city engineers that are assigned have an opportunity maybe to have an answer. I guess I'd just ask for maybe it not be like next meeting.
That's fine.
But I would be happy if we can approach them and say, how are you going to improve drainage when things get built in your city in the future?
Thank you, Mr. Bean. Mr. Hayes?
I'm good.
Okay, Mr. Barris?
Thank you again, Mr. President. And I want to, this will give you guys a perspective from the angle that I'm coming from. My main thing is as it pertains to annexation, okay? You've got these properties that are butting up to the parish, okay? Or they're in the unincorporated areas, one day. Well, the developer doesn't want to develop to those standards because there are standards and they're strict and for good reason. So then the city comes along and says, hey man, we're going to annex that, and then you're going to have a cheaper development. I mean, I can tell you there's one in Sulphur's prime example of this problem. They did not have to follow our ordinances, and that place is a joke now. So I'm trying to make sure everybody understands that it's kind of as it pertains to annexation and just, they just got to do better. So
Thank you, Mr. Barris. Is there any other questions or any objection? That motion carried. Item 11, consideration of adopting a resolution approving the submittal of a grant application to the state of Louisiana for the funding of the alternatives to detention program. Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Smith and a second by Mr. Stelling. Is there any discussion? Any objection? That motion will carry.
We want 12 all voted. Second.
Item 12, consideration of adopting a resolution approving the following items. Item 8, submittal of a grant application for the State Homeland Security Program, SHSP grant. Okay, let me finish reading. And B, submittal of a grant application for the Emergency Management Performance Grant, EMPG. I have a motion by Mr. Burley and a second by Mr. Hayes. Is there any discussion? Any objection? That motion will carry. Item 13, consideration of authorizing the parish purchasing agent to advertise
Move on
requests
13.
for
Second.
proposals for mosquito control emergency aerial services. I have a motion by Mr. Anderpont and a second by Mr. Barty. Is there any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Brain.
Mr. Brain.
Thank you, Mr. President. I guess this is a question for Danny. When would we use emergency aerial services?
Well, it would have happened, by the way, this is on the agenda, it has nothing to do with the 2 recent hurricanes. It's just kind of that time that we need to go out for another RFP for these emergency services. But you would use those like we did in Laura for example, when we could not get the big C-130, we kind of contacted this company, which is called Clark, and they came in and helped us with 2 planes. Also helped Cameron, by the way. So you use them during emergency hurricane type of events, but you could also use them when you have mechanical issues that might take longer to fix than normal. It's a 3-year agreement, RFP, and it's really came in and really helped us out over the years.
Okay, so if we need them, in other words, if they send in a request for proposal, and they just like on standby and stuff on.
They are on standby, yes, sir.
If we need them, we call.
Yes, sir.
Okay. What is the situation of our planes right now? They're in good shape and everything?
Great shape. Knock on wood.
Okay, good.
Thank you, Mr. Bowling. Thank you, Mr. Brain. Is there any other discussion? Any objection? That motion carried. Item 14, all bullets. Take appropriate action on bids proposals received by the
Move
parish
on
purchasing
14.
agent. Item A, for crushed stone. The staff recommends for low responsible and responsive bids of APEC Aggregate Supply LLC, DP Aggregates LLC, and Port Aggregates Incorporated be accepted. Item B, ready-mix concrete. The staff recommends the low responsible and responsive bid of PAI Ready Mix LLC be accepted. Item C, emergency assessments, environmental permitting for debris removal from Calhoun Parish drainage laterals. The staff recommends the proposal of Hunt, Gillott and Associates LLC be accepted. Item D, bulk oil. The staff recommends the low responsible and responsive bids of Delta Fuel Company LLC, Lord Oil Company LLC, INC Incorporated, and Real Dane Propelli Oil acquisition be accepted. Item E, Newcomer Road Bridge Replacement Project in Ward 4. The parish engineer recommends that the low bid in the amount of $597,618.30 of Warmack and Sons Construction Group LLC be accepted. Item F, 3/4 ton quad door extended cab and chassis long wheelbase. The staff recommends the low responsible and responsive bid of Mike Willis Ford in the amount of $34,796 be accepted.
I need to make a motion, let the record show that I'm recusing myself from that item, please.
Let the record show that on item F, Mr. Barrett be recused himself.
Yes, sir.
I have a motion on all bullets from Mr. Abshar and a second by Mr. Barty. Is there any discussion? Yes, I'm sorry, Mr. Barty.
Yeah, I just got a question. Item D, during the past 2 hurricanes, did we have 2 vendors at that time, or are we just getting 2 now?
She's coming.
Somebody's coming.
Can I ask a clarification, Mr. President? Ms. Morgenthaler, are you asking in terms of during an emergency or just in?
No, just during the last 2 hurricanes, did we have 2 vendors supplying us with these items?
With
No,
vehicles?
No, item D.
Bulk oil.
Bulk oil, Mary. It's Mary Flavin, purchasing.
Okay, yeah,
Purchasing
yeah.
agent. Yes,
Because
sir.
during all that time, the only name I kept hearing was Reladine. Did we have another vendor also at the same time?
Yes, sir. We
Okay.
do have 2 vendors
Okay.
for fuel.
Okay, good.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's all I have, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Martindale. Is there any other discussion? Any objection? That motion's carried. Item 15, take appropriate action on items related to
Move on
Hurricane
15.
Laura and Hurricane Delta in Calhoun Parish. I have a motion by Mr. Hayes and a second by Mr. Abshar. Is there any discussion? Any objection?
Make a motion
That
to
motion's
adjourn.
carried.
Move to adjourn.
I have a motion to adjourn.